Earlier this week, I released a video covering the updated version of Dynamic Conditions for Elementor, a free plugin that does one simple thing and does it very well. Allows you to show or hide information on your page using Elementor Pro. Well, I got a comment inside the comment section of that video saying, well, there's another plugin out there that's actually better than this, which is also free. Well, as always, this just piques my interest, so I took a look at that plugin. That's Dynamic Visibility for Elementor. It does a very similar thing, but has some slight differences in how we can actually deal with things. So in this video, we're going to jump over into Elementor, take a look at Dynamic Visibility, and see if this is something that you can either use to replace or enhance Dynamic Conditions for Elementor. Well, my name is Paul C. This is WPTuts, the channel where I help you get more from WordPress. If you'd like to be kept up to date with all of the new content we add, please consider subscribing and smashing that bell icon below to become part of the WP crew and be notified every time we release new content. Okay, so let's just jump over now into the dashboard of WordPress and take a look at Dynamic Visibility for Elementor. So the page is already set up. It's basically a blank page in Elementor. What we're going to do is we're going to jump into the Elementor editor itself and take a look at where the options are available now for this plugin. So we've got our page, and if we come over and just select any of the elements, now this can be a widget, it can be an entire section, it can be whatever you want. Doesn't really matter. We can show and hide complete sections on the page if you want to. You'll see we have a new option available inside the left-hand section called Visibility. Click to expand that. You can see by default it's disabled. So once we enable that, we now have a range of different sections we can use to trigger and do various different things. Each of these is broken down into various different types of triggers, and we'll take a brief overview of each of those in a second. First of all, I want to take a look at the visibility option. As you can see, we've got Enable Visibility, which, as we've just seen, enables this particular plugin to work on the page we've got open. We've then got Hide This Block. So you can see hide the element on the front end until it's enabled. Well, if we want to do that, we can do that. We've also got Keep HTML, and this is disabled by default. So this is where I'm saying if you want to have the HTML as part of your code inside your page, but it's just hidden via CSS, you can do that, or you can completely hide the HTML code from the code totally. So the next thing we have is the display mode. Now all this really does is show and hide the various different elements that we're working on inside the Elementor editor when you're in the dashboard creating your page or your template and so on. So that's quite useful. However, what we're interested in is jumping down to the actual triggers themselves. So let's take a look at the first one, which is the user role option. Now with the user roles, we've got a lot of different options available. Click to expand, you can see we've got the normal administrator, editor, and so on. And if you're using a plugin like WooCommerce, where you may have shop owner and things along those lines, extra sort of roles, they will show up inside here, so they can be used as your triggers as well. You've also got the visitor option, in other words, someone that's not logged in, so therefore they don't have an assigned role. So this can be very useful for various different things. If you want to display something to entice someone to become an actual subscriber, an editor, or whatever you kind of want on your site, you can do that using that particular role. On top of that, we've got selected users. So if we wanted to, we could use this to trigger it upon specific users on our site. We're not going to worry too much about that. You've then got the user metadata. Now this is where we have a lot of different options for the meta information for every single user on your site. If we scroll through, there's a lot of different things, and depending upon kind of plugins and things you may have installed, like I've got advanced custom fields, you may find that different things will work differently and have different options available to you inside this section. But as you can see, there are a lot of options inside the user meta for the user and role section. So you can use any of those, anything you want, like user levels, user settings, and so on. So we've got a lot of triggers inside there. You can also use a remote IP. So if you've got a specific fixed IP address, you can use those to do different things as well. Finally, we've got the Enable Referrer. If we enable that, you can see we can choose what site was visited prior to coming to our site. So this could be quite useful if you're getting targeted advertising, for example, for something like Facebook, Twitter, and those kinds of things. If that's your referrer, you could put that referrer inside there, and then you could have something that pops up on screen saying, welcome Facebook user, welcome Twitter user, whatever you kind of want, and use that as another piece of information you can sort of filter out and trigger. And next up, we have the device and browser option. So we can use responsiveness as a trigger. Now you can see we've got the information underneath. It says not really responsive, remove the element from the code based on the user's device. So If they're using a desktop or a TV, we can remove code or show code, and we can do the same thing then for the mobiles and tablets. We can also go through and specify which browsers we want to use as a trigger. So we click on there, you can see all the main culprits inside there, including the iPhone, Safari, and so on. So we can trigger it based upon the responsive device, we can trigger it based upon the browser they're using. So again, a lot of options for choosing what we want to use as the trigger. Next up, we've got date and time. There's a lot of options inside here. Might look pretty simple to start off with, but you can see we've got date from. We can click and choose a date to start off with, and we can also do the same then for the actual date to. So you could be running a campaign inside here that has an advert or something that runs between the month of December, and once that's gone, the advert disappears. Well, you could use this. You could also use this in conjunction with various other things like templates and so on. So there's tons of different ways you could use this, and it's a very simple way of integrating it. You can also do days of the week, so we can specify that we want it between a specific date and also only on specific days. So again, something that's very useful if you only wanted to run this on a weekend, or you wanted to have a different sort of advertising campaign on the weekend to the week. Well, you could do that using this date and time trigger. We can also do times. So we do days of the week, dates, and times. And again, you can see we've got the option to go in and set the hour and the minutes on there. So the date and time gives you a lot of flexibility, even though it might look quite simplistic. Just using those three different things in combination with each other, you can get really creative with how and where and when you display things, and you can stack up multiple different, so should we say, adverts. We'll keep to the advert analogy. Multiple different adverts for different days of the week, different times, different months, and so on, and then use that to trigger them, to show them to different things, different users at different times. Next up, we've got conditional tags. Click to open that up. This is pretty powerful, I've got to be honest. You've got post, site, page, and archive. And if we click inside any of those, we've got additional triggers that we can use. So under the posts, we could have, if this article is sticky, this post is sticky, do something, display something. If it's a hierarchical post type, is the post in an archive? Tons of different options. Could you have comments as an option? So you can see we can do that. The site, we've also got things like, is it a multi-site? Is it an RTL site, a right-to-left text site? So you may have specific things that you want to trigger for users that are using a site that's set up to use RTL, as well as the normal sort of left to right. So you've got a lot of different options you can use inside here, and it's all very simple. You know, customized preview, child theme, trackback, feeds, pages. Again, we can do the same kind of thing. We can choose 404 pages, archive pages, an abundance of different things. And finally, we have the archive option. And again, you've got the same kinds of things, all specific this time to the archives. So is it a taxonomy? Is it a category? Is it a specific author? Whole range of different things. Finally, we have the fallback option. So if we wanted to enable a fallback, so if all of these things didn't get triggered, then we can specify we want something to fall back content-wise, and you can see in there we can just put content into that particular area. So a lot of different options. So let's take a look at a couple of examples to see how this actually works. So let's start off with a really simple example. I've hopped over into the theme builder of Elementor Pro, and I've come into my header section. So let's just create a login link that if someone is a visitor and they haven't logged in, they'll see this, otherwise nothing will be displayed. So let's come in and edit with Elementor. And once we're inside there, we're going to just get rid of this search icon at the end, and we're going to put something else inside this. Let's just make a bit of room for what we want. We'll delete the search icon, and we're just simply going to drop in a text widget. So let's just find the text editor, drop that into there, and we're just going to put in login. Okay, so we could make that a link as well. So I'm not going to worry about sending it anywhere specific. We'll just say it's a link. So now we've created that. If we come to the visibility option, we can now set up the visibility rules that we want. So we click to enable that. We want to hide this block, for example, so we can hide it. So it's hide this element on the front end until it's enabled. So we'll say it's hidden, so no one will see it unless this is triggered. So what we're going to do now is we're going to say we want to trigger something. And we'll just apply a little bit of styling to this just so you can see it. So we'll set it to be right aligned, and we'll set the text to be white. So we've now got our login link. What we need to do now is just make sure we select this. We're going to come over into the visibility option inside the left-hand panel, and we're going to say enable visibility. Once we've done that, we can now go through and set up how we want this to work. We're going to set this on the user and the role. So we're going to click user and role. Going to click on there, and you can see it says visitor non-logged in. So we're going to click on that. So that now says that this role is the trigger for this to be displayed. So let's just hit update on there. And what we're going to do is we're going to jump over to a browser tab now where I'm not logged in, and we're going to take a look to see exactly what's going on. So I've jumped over into an incognito window, and as you can see, there's our login button that would take us through to whatever we wanted. However, if we come back out of this and we go over to a page where I am logged in, and we'll just refresh this to make sure everything is in place, you can see there's no button, nothing is showing up. So it's a very simple trigger, and all we've done is select the actual sort of widget itself. We could, if we want to, select the column and all those kinds of things. So there's a lot of options on what you can do with this. So that's how easy it is to just simply set up a single trigger. And as you can see, it's very easy to set things up for non-logged in users. So it's a great way of being able to sort of promote things that you want, and then also take those out so you don't barrage, shall we say, your logged in users, the people that you don't necessarily need to see this thing repeatedly over and over again. So just another really good use for this. Okay, so let's try one more example where we're going to create an advert and we're going to specify what browser this will actually be seen in. Let's come in and edit with Elementor like we normally would. Once we're inside there, we're going to create a new widget. We're just going to get rid of this header section. We don't want the title on there. So I'm going to get rid of that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new widget, single row column, and inside there, we're just going to drop in some content. So I'm going to just choose an image, drop that into there, and just choose our image. So I'm going to quickly upload an advert that I want to use, insert my media. So there we go. There's our advert inserted. So we're going to make sure that we've got this section selected. Come up to the visibility tab, and inside there, we're going to enable visibility options. We're going to scroll down to device and browser, and inside there, we're going to choose what browser type we want. Now, currently, I'm using Chrome. So what we're going to do is we're going to specify that this will be hidden on Internet Explorer or Microsoft Edge. So I'm going to say Microsoft Edge because I've got that installed. So you say Microsoft Edge, we'll hit update on there. So what I'll do now is I'll open this page up in both Chrome, which I've got installed and I'm using as my main browser, and also Microsoft Edge, so we can see how this is now going to be shown in one browser and hidden in the other. So if we take a look at Chrome, we'll refresh the page just to make sure that everything is up to date. As you can see, nothing is being shown on this page. There's no content at all on it other than the header and footer. However, if I open up Microsoft Edge, you can see, and again, I'll refresh the page. You can see we've got both the login because I'm not logged in on this browser, and also the advert because we're using the browser we've set we want to display this on. Now, these are both super simple examples of how you can use this free plugin, but what it can demonstrate is just how easy it is to start using these to create dynamic triggers and things along those lines that will specify where and when you'll actually use these different sections of your page. So, do I think this is better than the dynamic conditions for Elementor plugin we took a look at in yesterday's video? To be honest, I think they're both very, very useful plugins. I think the dynamic conditions for Elementor is a little bit more intuitive, a little bit better thought out in its structure. However, there are some features that I would love to see in the dynamic conditions plugin that are in this particular plugin, and we could get the best of both worlds. I think we'd have a fantastic option. But because both of these are free, there's no difficulty with you testing these out and seeing which one fits the purpose of any particular website you're working on. You may find that one is better for one project, the other better for another. However, like I say, they're completely free, so there's no problem trying them out and seeing which works the best for you. Now, I will say that I have found a couple of little strange quirks when I've used this today in sort of recording this video. Things like where the panel wouldn't actually open, so you click on it and nothing would happen. So I'd have to save the page, refresh the page, and then take a look at it again, and it would work. This could be a local problem. It could be something to do with the plugin itself, but it's worth bearing in mind that you may see a few little quirks. Well, there we have it. That's dynamic visibility for Elementor, another great free plugin with a ton of options that we can utilize to create more interactive WordPress websites using Elementor Pro. Have you ever used this plugin yourself, or is this something you consider to use in a future project? If you have, or you think you would, please let me know in the comment section below. I'd love to get your feedback on this and how you think it stacks up against dynamic conditions for Elementor, the other free plugin that I took a look at earlier this week. Now, if you want to learn more about WordPress and get the most out of your WordPress websites, take a look at the videos you can see on screen now. They're going to get you up to speed with a lot more cool things you can do and enhance your skills with WordPress. As always, all the applicable links are in the description below. My name has been Paul C. This has been WPTuts, and until next time, take care.